Good morning, friends. This morning session is dedicated to class 9, and I'm going to just narrate the story The Snake and the Mirror. Well, this story highlights the vanity, the theme of vanity. Man is often proud of his physical appearance and physical beauty. At times, he is often At times, he is often foolish and stupid in his attempt uh, at estimating himself. The author is trying to explain through this lesson that it is important for us to live in the real world, not in the fictitious one. The story goes like that. The story is about a homeopathic doctor. He is young, unmarried, and handsome. He is often the admirer of his own beauty. He often admires his look and gets lost in the daydreaming. So the doctor is fond of admiring his own beauty. He lived in a rented house, rather in an outhouse having two windows and tiled roof. The room was not having electricity. One Sunday hot, evening, he had his meal and he at a restaurant, and he came back home. He took off his coat and shirt and sat down on the chair to read a medical book. The there was a huge there was a huge mirror on a table, on which stood the lamp. He lit the kerosene lamp and sat in the chair. As it was very hot, he opened both the windows and looked into the mirror, while sitting, looked into the mirror, admiring his own beauty. He got lost in the thought of admiring himself, and gradually his thought shifted from his self admiration to his future planning about future marriage, and he started thinking about whom should he marry. He just thought that he should marry a very rich lady, a rich lady doctor having a good practice. He also dreamed that his life partner would be a fat lady, so that she would not be able to run and catch him. While he was lost in the daydreaming, he couldn't notice the sudden silence in his room. He was so engrossed in his daydreaming that he did not even give much importance to the sudden silence in the room. As the room was infested with rats, there was a sudden silence, and the rats had stopped scampering. There was a sound of something falling behind him. He was slow to react. By the time he turned round to look, a snake had slid over his chair and back of the chair, and he has just wriggled down to his shoulder and coiled round his arm above the elbow. It was a dangerous snake. He could not move, and nor he could show any action. Otherwise, he would be bitten by this snake. The snake's hood was just 3 inches away from his face. So the doctor didn't make any movement. He just remained silent like a stone statue, not making any movement, just because he knew that any movement would cost his life. It seemed as though God in the form of snake had come to punish him for his being arrogant and proud. He realized the presence of God in the form of the snake. By the time he realized that God has really come in the form of snake to punish him for his being arrogant and proud, the the presence of God really made him believe that one should be mere human being, not boast of one's beauty and proud. And then he saw that the snake had suddenly left his hold, and now he was sitting on the table in front of the mirror. The doctor got up the chance and silently stood up and sprinted out of the room. He narrowly escaped, death. Then he, didn't come that night. The next morning he came to take his belongings. He was surprised to see that all his belongings were stolen, as he had run away without locking his door. And so this story comes to conclusion that while the homeopathic doctor remained engrossed in admiring his own beauty and didn't even notice the sudden silence in his room. The sudden appearance of the poisonous snake in his room, coiling around his neck and making him sit like a statue. His sudden realization of God's presence in the form of snake, because he believed that the God has come in the form of snake to punish him. All this makes him feel that he was a God-fearing person, quite religious. Though he was handsome and good-looking, yet he had certain concern about the presence of God, and he was quite religious. The moment he felt the presence of God in his room in the form of snake, the snake left his hold on him and sat on the chair, and that gave him an opportunity to sprint out of the room and save himself. So this story, on one hand, emphasizes that we should never live in the world of dream and fantasy. Rather, we should realize the practicality of life, and we should live in the real world. On the other hand, it also highlights that mere daydreaming cannot help. We cannot really change our prospect simply by daydreaming. We need to work hard, then only we can change our fate. So it is equally important. At one hand, it is important that we should look into and admire our own appearance and beauty, but the other hand, we should also realize that we are mere human being. We are not someone very extraordinary, and our survival and our progress depends entirely on our hard work. So we should be in the perception that living in the real life, living in the reality is far more important than daydreaming and living in fantasy. That is all about this lesson. Thank you. Have a nice day.